Hello everyone, welcome back to today's video, or if you're new here and you just found me, welcome. I am so glad you're here. As you can see, I have prepped my paper on the back side with some water so that when I start working on the front, it will flatten out again. Also, this paper can take quite a bit of water, and so I really like this practice of putting down the water on the backside first. I am once again working with the Lightwish watercolor palette. If you don't know, this was sent to me by Lightwish to try out, and I did a review video on this a little while ago, and I just like the blues and the greens in this palette. And if you've been around here a little while, you keep hearing me say, I'm not a green person, I'm also not a pink person. Yet, I find myself enjoying working with those two colors, strangely enough. That just goes to show that just because you don't love a color palette, try it out. You might like it on paper. Just because you don't like to wear a certain color doesn't mean you're not gonna love it on paper. I didn't have my swatches with me, and so I accidentally picked up the gray instead of the green. When they're in their little pods, it's a little hard to figure out which color it is, especially the darker colors. But no worries, I just mixed it in with some other green and continue on as if nothing happened. Sometimes it's nice to have some darker values, and I don't mind putting in a color that isn't the color that I chose. So right now it's looking a little bit green, and I'm trying to figure out which of the blues do I like. So there's a couple of blues that I've tried in this little corner here, and this is the one that I wanted. The first one that I picked up was a little bit too mermaidy. It's the turquoise, the darker turquoise of the colors, so I didn't really want that. But that's okay, again, you know, in the end, it's all gonna mix together, and you never know, you might end up liking the end result. That might be a fault of mine because I just take the colors straight out of the pan and put them on the paper, whereas other people might mix them on a palette first. And if you know me, you will know that I don't like to do things by the books. So, you know, there's different ways to achieve the same thing. So I am not one to follow the rules when it comes to working with watercolors. At least not for what I use it for. These backgrounds are super forgiving, and I can just, you know, keep working with what I have, even if I quote-unquote made a mistake. Right now, I am loving what I'm seeing, and so I kind of want to stop there, but I do want to bring in some gold. And I like this gold because it is a lighter gold. It's not like the Schminke that has a very bright pigmentation. So as you can see, I keep adding a little bit more, and as I do, I get a little bit of granulation in these colors, which I am really happy about. The way I put down colors is usually extremely random. There's no rhyme or reason how I put these colors down, and the same goes for the gold. But look at how it dried. I am so happy with how this turned out in the end. Again, it just goes to show that you just never know what you're gonna get with these backgrounds. And I think that is just a draw for me to continue creating these paintings, because I just never know what am I going to get. So now I can start doodling, and normally what I do is I start with a line going across the page. That kind of helps me center everything and have a starting point. Today though, I saw a dragon in this background, and so that is kind of what I wanted to lean into. Of course, it's going to be in the abstract, and it's not exactly going to look like a dragon. And if you've been around here a little while, you know that this is how I like to work. If I were to try and incorporate an actual dragon into this, I think I would put way too much pressure on myself, mainly because I am not that good at drawing, and so working in the abstract helps me get rid of that anxiety, because if a line is not completely accurate, it doesn't matter. Every now and then the urge overcomes me to work in realism and to really truthfully depict an image. And then I realize that is way out of my comfort zone, and I get so much anxiety over it that I quickly abandon that thought. I am so glad I found abstract art. Honestly, it is the best thing that's happened to me. So I outlined these dots that I had on the page, and I loved them so much that I wanted more, and I didn't have any more dots. So I am manually putting in more dots, and that is not something that I usually do. Most of the time I work with what I have on the paper. But today is an exception, and now I am drawing what could be considered cobblestones, but I wanted them to represent more like scales. And while they start out as cobblestone-ish looking, I then continue later on with some form of scales when I use the colored pencils. I am feeling pretty happy with the shape that I drew, and so I decided to go in and start the shading process. Usually I wait with that until most of it is on the paper, but I also was unsure what to do with the rest of the paper, and so I just focused and honed in on what I already had on the page. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I know though he needed a body, And so while I was drawing him, I was trying to figure out, how am I going to proceed? How am I going to incorporate his friend? Luckily, there is another gold shape that is right next to his face, so I was able to pretend that that's the other one's face. However, I'm not loving the body at the moment, and so you're gonna see me modifying that a little bit and trying to make him look not so skinny. So I have this line, and sometimes I wish certain lines weren't there, but I mentioned this before. I like that because it forces me to use my brain to figure out what else I can do with it. So now they're kind of attached, but at least I am able to make his body a little bit thicker, a little bit more substantial. I didn't want to use scales again because he might be another creature. He might not be a dragon, for all we know. I mean, who am I to tell him that he's a dragon too, you know? So I decided to give him a different kind of body covering, but I still kind of wanted him to have some wings as well. So maybe he's a dragonfly. How about that? Maybe the first one is a dragon and the bottom one is a dragonfly. I just thought of that, you guys. That didn't even occur to me until just now. And that makes me think, what do you guys see? How would you interpret these two figures? I felt like the rest of the surface that I had available to draw something on didn't really lend itself for more lines. I felt like I had quite a bit of lines down, and because this one is a little bit different than all the other ones that I've done before, meaning that there is two distinct structures that are dominant in this painting. I didn't feel like it needed more lines. The dragonfly already had quite a bit of lines in them, and there was enough going on the upper part, and so I decided that that was enough. Now I'm bringing out my dotting tool again. It's a dauber that I had from my cookie business days, and I apologize. I keep repeating myself, but a lot of you are not subscribed and probably are new to my channel, and you're thinking, why the heck does it say Borderlands Bakery on this dauber? Well, I bought it at a cookie decorating shop that is called Borderlands Bakery. And so that's why it says that on it. But it works perfectly for little bubble dots in my painting. And so I keep using it for that. So I had to put those down first because in the past I've noticed that if I want to put them over the colored pencils, it doesn't really take very well. It kind of, the two repel each other, and so I put those down first and try not to shade with pencils. I really liked that blue on that one side, and I was kind of sad that there wasn't more of that blue in this background, and so I just added a little bit more with my pencils. It kind of worked, but it is a different texture, which I don't mind, but you know, sometimes you wish you had added a little bit more, and then you just have to make the best out of it. So because I didn't have a lot of blue on that side, I decided to outline the bubbles with a little bit more blue, just to give it a little bit more of a hint of blue in that section of the painting. And I've recently discovered these scribbles, and now I'm obsessed and I want to do them all the time and everywhere. So my apologies if you are going to keep seeing these. I just love how it gives it just a little bit of texture in the background without overpowering the rest of it. I am pretty happy with how everything looks right now, and so I am going to start dotting my heart out. I like to use acrylic paint for that because it gives the painting a nice little texture, and it also allows me to get different sizes of dots very quickly. So I just adapted that technique for myself, and I really like how it looks in the end. I'm also giving the scales a little bit more highlights with diluted acrylic white paint. I just use the acrylic paint because I have it out. You could definitely use colored pencil or gouache if you have it, or even white watercolor. That works too. I decided that the wings needed a little bit more shimmer, and so I added some of the gold over it, and then I ended up having to draw over my black lines a little bit more because they kind of disappeared. I just love how it turned out. It's so cute. Anyway, we're almost there. Just a few more finishing touches and then I can call this one done. I'm really curious what you guys have to say about this painting. I really like it. It's kind of quirky, it's kind of funky, and that is right up my alley. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all my channel members. I love you to bits. I love your support, and just know that it is appreciated. Thank you so much for being here today. If you haven't subscribed already, maybe today is the day that you decide that you would do that. And if you haven't done it yet, hit that like button. It really helps my channel grow and being seen by other people. I am going to say goodbye here, and I will see you next time.